Hello and welcome once again to the Thinking Bar. Today we have an episode of the Dancing Cocktail, and I have a very special guest. Her name is Xianix Barrera. She is a bailaora and an excellent performing artist. She's done a lot of projects throughout her career in New York City and other countries. She's a teacher most of the time, but is also developing different amazing projects. So I'm not gonna spoil you the interview. Please enjoy it. Take your time, grab a drink, and open your mind to learn a little bit more about the world of flamenco today. So let's start por el principio. Let's talk about a little bit of your background and if you studied different genres before getting into the flamenco world, or when did you decide that flamenco was going to be your path?
Oh, okay. So I was actually just talking about this earlier today. I started like my first exposure to dance was cheerleading.
Oh, that's nice.
Bucceek, music, that's our name. Um, and I loved it. It was like the one program that my mom put me in when I was little. And, we had to have our white leotards and the blue skirt and the white and blue pom pom. And then in junior high
You're
school,
from New York originally, right?
yeah.
Okay.
And then, so part of that, then they put me in softball, and I hated it. And they had me as a catcher. I was like, no, I want to be a cheerleader. So mommy put me in cheerleading. And then in junior high school, I was part of this public school. Like our floor was the arts floor, and we did ballet, modern, and jazz. But again, that was like not formal, like an academy. It was like part of school. So, we had boys in the class, and I want to do any dancing, or the girls too. And actually, now my fiance, he was one of the boys in the class who was.
Oh.
He says he used to do it, but I don't know if I believe him. Y no me recuerdo para. And then in high school, I was at Mother Cabrini High School. I was part of the marching band. And I used to play the bass drum, which is the bombo, I think they call it.
Mhm.
So that was like my first exposure to like music training. But they did not teach me how to read music.
Oh.
So it was just right, left, paradiddle, paradiddle. Like that's how I learned the songs. Um, so that's my only like, I wish I was taught music because that would help a lot. But it didn't matter. And a side note is that I was very good at math. I
Oh.
truly believe that flamenco is music and math.
Oh yeah. Even though people say no, you don't have to count. I can't.
No, not even the counting, but like
Mm.
understanding the subdivisions. And if I do, four of these and four of these, like it has to be even. It has to, so the fact that I was very good at math and I loved math. Math was my favorite subject. I think that really helped flamenco. So I had the music training and I had the math ability, and I think that's why I was able to like pick it up very easy and have a very good memory. Um, and then I actually started almost 20 years ago. It'll be 20 years in January with Jorge Navarro. I actually just put something on my stories, I think yesterday, that it's the 30th anniversary of River Dance. Have you heard of that? The Irish step dancing.
No.
I'll send it to you there so you can see. So it's basically an Irish step dancing a show that was brought to Broadway that was huge, and I saw it on TV. I think I was probably 18 or probably 19. And not only do they have the Irish step dancing, but they have other percussive dance arts. So they have flamenco, tap, and then a Russian like Roma dance. And when I saw the flamenco, it was Maria Pajes.
Oh.
Her love.
Hmm.
They had the cliche, the fire, and like all that stuff. And I was
I guess it was like eye opener, right?
yeah, I thought the tap was cool and the Russian, dancing was cool, but the flamenco, I was like, oh. And I actually, in junior high, I saw an Irish step dancing company at the Joyce. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. I want to do that. Thank God I didn't go Irish step dancing, like the flamenco route. Obviously, like percussive dance really called to me. And a friend, he's like, you can take dance classes. Like I just thought you can only study whatever was in school. Like I didn't really know that you can do things outside of school. And so I found Jorge's class. And then I think I was like, yes. I would say maybe 3 months in, I was like, oh my God, I want to do this. And I met a Dominican girl, Jamaica, who was like traveler, super social. And she's like, loca, tú tienes que ir a Sevilla, tienes que estudiar allí, amazing, whatever. Also, that concept of like traveling, well, outside of Puerto Rico and República Dominicana, where my parents are from, but then to like Spain, brincar el charco, and then alone. I
How old were you?
was 20.
Oh, okay.
No, 21. Because I went in 2006 for the first time.
Mm.
And I went to the Biennale.
Oh, nice.
And I've gone to every Biennale since. I've missed officially two. I missed officially two. The 2020, I missed it, And 2022, were they back? Yeah, I think they were back. But by then I was a mom, so it's not like I could escapar así. But I went to every Biennale since 2006. And then, so I would study in Sevilla and New York. I would work my ass off for the year, save the money, so that I can go to Sevilla for 3 months and study for 3 months at a time. Because that's the most you could stay, right? 90 days without getting.
Right, yeah.
So that's what I did. And that's what I continue to still do. I mean, now when I go, this year is going to be the third year I do a class trip with my students. We go to Sevilla and they study with teachers that I've studied with before. And they get to see shows and they get to have like these experiences and the caña, sí, flamenco. You want to dance flamenco?
Yeah, that was actually gonna be one of my questions. But before we go there, how was your first class or your first three classes? Like, what were the questions that your students asked? I guess it was something sort of new. I mean, I know that there are many artists and organizations that have been in New York for a while, for a really long time. But I don't know. I still see it because of the people around me. I still see flamenco is something new here, or at least in this part of the United States. I think in Miami or in maybe, yeah, mostly Miami or New Mexico. There are like more more groups. But how were your first classes? Which were like the most frequently asked questions that the students had at that time?
So when people come to my class.
Uh-huh.
Um, I do get a lot of questions, which is I remember asking the same of like, I'm a dancer. Can I just go to like the advanced beginner, whatever, at like
Got
simple
it.
level? And it's always like, yes, I know you're a dancer, but flamenco's like nothing else, right? It's the musical element, body percussion, understanding the cante, doing it live with live music, not with, press play. So I always have to tell them like, you need to start from zero, you know.
Right.
And you know, if people can come like in and out, kind of like a Zumba class or like a workout. I'm like, and I have no interest in teaching people who want to just come in and out. If you want to do that, ole tu, but I'm not your teacher, you know, I'll find you somebody else. Because I want somebody who's going to keep coming consistently because it's more fulfilling for me and it's more fulfilling for you. Because
Of
if you
course.
come consistently, then you will see that progression. If you come once a month because of whatever, but you're gonna be frustrated because you're not understanding and you're not getting. Everybody else has been coming, you're comparing yourself to them. It's also frustrating for me because it's like I want to help you and I see you're so frustrated, but I also have a group that's been coming consistently that I have to make it fair for them too.
Right. I think part of that frustration is maybe because I don't know, I think people believe that flamenco is that's part of a party in which a Spanish song uh, just sounds and they go like ha ha and that's it, right? And that's what they were expecting in the class and they found a whole new world and I guess it must be intimidating too
It
for those
is. And
students.
so my beginner class, I always call it Survivor.
Oh
Like
God.
Survivor. No, it's true. Because the first class is always 20 people. Oh, CJ. And then week by week, they start trickling
Less
out.
and less.
And you're just left with the core people who for you to do flamenco, that's why I don't really promote really either. Because it's not like I want that random person that is looking for a new hobby. If you come to flamenco, it's because something you saw or
Called you. Mhm.
got you, and then you make the effort to find the teacher. Do you understand? Like, you know, salsa,
Yeah.
samba, tango argentino, you know, those kind of styles are much more in the mainstream, you know, and it's much more common, but flamenco is super specific, super niche, you know. So the people who come to classes because they reached out to me and they made the effort. And I like to be super honest with people and upfront. I don't like to waste anybody's time and I don't like to take anybody's money. If your life, like I said it last in December, like life has been lifing, you know, there's so
Mhm.
many obstacles that is stopping you from getting to class or from practicing or whatever. And I totally get that, you know, but you have to find the time, whether it's 5 minutes to listen to the music, 5 minutes to look at the video, 5 minutes to go into the bathroom in front of the mirror. Yes, I think to like, you know, practice whatever you've been learning and to show up, right? Because my beginner class is Thursdays at 8. That's not easy.
Right. Yeah.
I would not do a class Thursday. Like, I'm too tired, no way. But you really have to love it. So that's why, like, the group that I have now, they are committed, they practice together. You know, it's super cute. They you know, schedule studio time and they practice together. So, you know, I try from the beginning also to establish that community within the group and like reach out to each other. And then, you know, with the chat, we have a WhatsApp, they can communicate and say, hey, I'm gonna go do this, or what was that step, or no sé qué cosa, I want to check out this show, who wants to come with me? You know, because that also helps people to come back because they have something that's theirs and they have something in common with somebody else. You know, like maybe my partner
Right.
doesn't really care about flamenco. He's like, okay, babe, go. That's your thing. You know, so I can go see that flamenco show with my, you know, compañera from class, as opposed to dragging my partner or my friend or my mom who's like, yeah, do you know things
So
like that?
maybe yeah, and you enjoy it even more
Yeah,
when you have compañeras, like you said.
yeah,
And it's like those third places, I think they're called. That is, it's not your work, it's not your home. It's like the place in between in which you live. Like I said, life is life. What do you say
life is
again?
life.
Life is life,
Yeah,
but you have your own thing, and that's amazing. I've seen your group, and they really are a beautiful community. So
yeah.
those students that survive, those are the ones that stay, and you have the trip to Spain.
why, when did it start? I think it was 2022, but tell me about it. How was that first experience? And why do you think it's important to go to Spain? Because in this globalized world, you would say, oh, no, it's okay, we'll do it here. Everything's connected either way. But why do you think it's important, that extra step or extra 1,000 miles
Yeah,
of
wow,
travel?
I totally get it. So 2019, one of my students, Candy, she just came back from Feria de Sevilla.
Mm.
Oh my God, Xianix. Otra dominicana. Oh my God, Xianix. The Dominicanas. Oh my God, I'm just like, aha, those Dominicanas have the great ideas. Oh my God, Xianix, you have to, organize a class trip to go to Feria. And I was like, yo ni
You're
loca.
like, no, that's impossible.
That's too much work. I cannot. And she's like, what if I help you? And I was like, help me. Now we're talking. And she would do the same thing when she worked at the United Nations. She would like organize trips that was her job. So a better like co-host I could not have chosen, So we planned this whole beautiful trip for 2020. Eso pasó, and then 2021 it was still not, gonna happen. And then 2022, things were kind of sort of, abriendo un poquito, whatever. So we're like, fuck it, let's try it, let's go. And it was,
Like it's now or never, I guess.
yeah, and the people that were gonna come in 2020, they came and whatever. And it was intense. It was a lot. It was too much, I think, to do the class trip during Feria. Because have you been to Spain?
No, not yet.
Okay, so let
My
me explain how
Venezuela
it is.
passport.
No. Like, let me explain how it is when you go. So when you go, like when I would go before this whole class trip thing, you are in classes are not once a week. It's Monday through Friday. And you aprovecha. You're like, dame todo, no?
Right.
So you can do 3 to 5 hours a day, whatever your body can handle. Maybe 2 in the morning, 2 at night. And then, so you have your dance classes, right? And then you have to, go home and the siesta, almuerzo, whatever. And then your evening classes, and then you go home and you take a shower and you go to the peña, or you go to the tablao or to the bienal. And then there's the huelga after the show, hasta la y tanta, rinse and repeat. And Sevilla is so small that you can practically, you walk everywhere. You can take the bus or whatever, but people just walk because it's so imagine all of that. Dancing 4 hours a day, walking all day, shows, peña, juerga, whatever. And then on top of that, add the Feria de Sevilla.
Wow. Yeah, no, it's hectic.
So the
In a
Feria,
good way, but
it was, and then I've never been during Feria. So I did not know that most businesses close for the week. So you want to go buy shoes, you want to go buy a manton, you want to go whatever, that's it.
oh god.
And or they only open in the morning and they're closed in the afternoon. So what's happening in the morning? The classes.
Hmm.
I couldn't buy anything after, so that was the other thing. And then you have to get in to get into a caseta is very difficult. There's the free ones, but they're not as amazing as the ones of the private socios. It was like a lot of, so that's why in 2023 we're like, okay, no pay. Let's just and it went much better. I also did not go with my family. That was the other thing. I went with my mom, my fiance, and my baby the first year.
Oh wow.
Loca, loca, loca. So then the second year, I did not go with my family, so I was able to really focus on the trip, and then this year the same. So now we have, I think, 33 going this year.
It's a nice group. Okay.
And to answer your question about why, so I started studying right in 2005. And then, I met Jamilka and she was like, you gotta go to Spain, whatever. And when I got to Spain and I took class in Spain, that's when I was like, bing, like, I don't know, things just made so much more sense, and I was able to pick up faster because I'm in class every day as opposed to
Hmm.
once or twice a week, So instead of studying 8 hours a month, now I'm studying 20 hours that month. Plus, in Spain, you don't have what's weighing you down at home, the responsibilities. not working, you're not de que la casa, que la familia, que whatever. So you can hyper focus and you have time to rehearse. And then outside of class, you're learning by watching a tablao show every night and going out to the juerga, and that socialization that happens after in the street after hours at somebody's house, so for my students who like really are into it, like that's like the next level. Like, are you really into it? You really want to do this? Vente. And then it really puts
It's an
it.
immersive experience, I guess.
And I tell them, I warn them, when you come back, you're gonna be depressed. Oh, sure,
can
you're gonna be
imagine.
sad because why?
Yeah.
You just spent a week or two dancing every day, drinking and eating and watching shows, and your family's over there, your job's over there, your responsibilities over there. It's flamenco life, you're hanging out with your friends, and then you come home and
You go back to the cold.
yeah, so but people really love it. And they, when I went, it was so intimidating because I was alone. It would have been so nice, let's say if you and I were friends and we went together, we can share with somebody. But Spain can be very lonely, unless they know you through somebody else. It's not like they're going to be the most, they're friendly, but ¿sabes qué te digo? Como que it's time. Whereas with this, you have 30 people to choose from, and you have the option to hang out with the big group or be like, no, I'm going to do my own thing. So that's why we do it. That's why we continue to do it. People love it. It's really fun.
That's good. That makes me think of when you say it can be very lonely, it's because in the end it's a different culture. Even if you speak Spanish, I mean it's just different. It's thousands of miles away, and especially if you are from a different culture, I guess you encountered this all the time in your classes. Would you say that that's been a challenge, like to teach people from different cultures and like trying to translate the things that are only referent to flamenco? I mean, the word palos, I mean, you can say genres, but it doesn't have like the same spirit in the word. What do you think, or which has been the most challenging part of teaching students from many different cultures?
I mean, there is that like language aspect to it, and aside from learning steps, you're learning Spanish vocabulary. I joke that I sound like Charlie Brown, like the teacher in Charlie Brown. When I'm saying all these like remate, escobilla,
oh, I
whatever,
see.
you're like, I don't know what the hell. And it takes time for you to understand what means what. So I repeat a lot, even if you know Spanish. I repeat a lot because each, like the structure has its names, and this means this, and this means that. But I think flamenco calls to everybody because in the end, it's music. So if you don't speak the language, it really doesn't matter. If you understand melody, I don't memorize lyrics, but I'm really good with melodies, and that's what I, remember. And, in the end, people are looking for a 1 hour getaway.
Right.
Like calm my mind and let me focus on this one thing because, whatever's happening in the world or in my life is just too much. I need, so for me, teaching, it's super.
Ay, te quedaste pegada.
Okay.
O soy yo, no sé. Okay.
And so I was saying that it's really important for me to make it fun because I find that people are much more receptive if they're having fun. if you're the kind of teacher, mira, esto no es así, babe, con el palito. What are you doing? Yes. Like, I can't learn like that if you're being an asshole. You know? So if we're having fun and we can make fun of ourselves, and remind people that, you think everybody else in class is judging you, but people are not worried about you. They are worried about themselves. Okay, so do what you have to do, have fun, and just practice.
Right. I think that's great from this country, actually, because, yeah, I don't know. At least where I come from, people may be judging you. Everybody thinking about chisme and blah, blah, blah. But that's great about the United States. Or that's been my experience, that I feel kind of free in that sense that, yeah, I'm leaving. Everybody's leaving. I don't care. They don't care. And that's how we roll. Okay. And going back to your website, yeah, because I was like, I want to talk to Xianix, but what do I talk about? And I was reading your bio, and it says a lot about women empowerment and a lot of social justice issues that you try to incorporate in your art. Tell me a little bit about that. I know that you have a present project. I think it was, I don't know if it was or it is, you tell me.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful concept. It's called Quebrada, for those who haven't seen it. And tell me a little bit more about that, or what do you consider when you start developing a concept like that?
Well, with this show, it actually did it this weekend. I premiered it this weekend. So that kintsugi, I kind of like flamenco too. Like, I kind of knew about it, but not really. And it was in a meditation. This meditation app, they were talking about kintsugi and about how, we're beautiful despite our flaws, and we shouldn't, hide them. It's part of our history. It's not something to be ashamed of. We can transform that. I was like, wow, what a universal theme, right? Like, who isn't broken? Yes, there are degrees of trauma, right, of brokenness. So some more broken than others, but everybody at some point in their life has been broken in some way. And, there are some people who stay in that brokenness and cannot get out of it and cannot put themselves back together. And there's some people who, despite all the shit they've been through, found a way, put themselves back together and transformed that into something beautiful. So that was like, I want to say 2019. And I was like, okay, that's an idea. So that was like in the back of my mind. And then the pandemic happened. And then
And we found
2020,
new ways to be broken.
totally, right? I was like, my creativity, yeah. And then 2021, I got pregnant. Actually, I got pregnant at the end of 2020, but 2021 is what, it's my pregnancy, and I had the baby. And talk about broken, like, there was no time for creativity. We were too tired with taking care of this human life. And then 2022, it was like, venga, let's try it. But it was not coming, and I know that I had a lot of insecurity, a lot of negative self-talk. Who are you? Nobody cares. Like, sit down. Like, you can't do this. All this negative self-talk. And I was like, okay, but man. And then last year, the company that the program that I was in, the choreography program that I was in 2019, they were doing an alumni year, and they said, we want you to be a part of it. And I was like, okay, I have to do this thing, because if not, and when I talk about,
leaving you.
well, so when I talk about, when people ask me about this, I always talk about, I'll put it in the chat so you can look it up later. Elizabeth Gilbert. She's
Oh,
the
I love her. Well, I read a couple of
Eat,
books.
Pray, Love,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
And City of Girls. I loved it.
so she wrote a book called Big Magic. And
Okay.
in book she talks about creativity and like the magic that it is, and then she says that ideas implant themselves in people in the hopes to be brought into this world. And when you don't give birth to that idea, then the idea will find somebody else. And that's how you see examples of, let's say, you and me, or you and I, we have the same idea, but you're the one that actually did something with that idea. I has always had it. And Elizabeth actually says an example of, of a story that she had, and then her friend actually did it. And it was very minor differences, but it's essentially the same story. So I was so afraid that somebody else was going to do this kintsugi idea that I was like, no, you have to do it. So when this came, I was like, okay, mega.
Hands on.
Hands on, we're gonna do it. And then, but going back, actually, 2022, there was I did this panel on duende with Ariel Rosales and Alicia Bryant. And the curator, Carla, she goes, tell us projects that you're like currently working on, whatever. And when it came to me, I was like, well, there's this project I've had that, I just can't get it out, this and that, and I don't want to say it. She's like, no, say it, tell us about it. So then I start telling them about the kintsugi, and she's like, next month we have a workshop so that you can learn how to do kintsugi.
Wow.
I was like, fuck, okay. And so I did it, and thank God I did it, because it was amazing. And it actually helped me to figure out, how do I take this concept and make it into a show? So what I decided to do was, like, the different numbers in the show is the different steps in the process of repair. When you're doing kintsugi, you have to look at the pieces and analyze them, like you lay them out. And then, like a puzzle, you have to kind of like put them together. You haven't glued it yet. You're just putting it together to make sure,
like organizing.
right? To make sure that this part goes here. Because there's been times that I glued this and it actually doesn't go there. And then
that's double broken.
exactly. Then you glue it. Then you have to sand it down. Then you paint it with the urushi, and then you dust it with the gold. So I was like, let me do that with the show. So the analyzation part was soleado. The putting yourself back together and like sanding it down for me is work, right? It took forever to do the sanding. And for me, when I was learning to do kintsugi, I just want to paint already. And if you equate that to your healing, like, you want to be healed. I want to be good already.
You want to take a pill and forget about it.
You want to take a pill. You want your leg to be okay. You want to be done with your addiction. You want to repair that relationship. You
want to forget. Yeah.
And it's a slow and hard, crazy process. So for me, Sigrilla, Martinete, the work song, bing, bing, bing. So I did that.
The hardest part. Yeah.
So yeah, I finally got it out, and I had many setbacks. Like my guitarist, wasn't available a month before the show. The bass player that I had, his mom, is not well, so he couldn't really commit. So like all these setbacks, all these challenges, and I'm like, man, if it's not perfect, you just need the first draft. You just need to kind of birth that idea. And then so now that I did it, now I want to refine it, work on it, make it longer, because only like 30 minutes. Work on the bailes, really develop the music. Because it's like flamenco theater, because I'm like telling a story. I'm not just dancing.
Right.
I'm not just dancing tangos. Like I have to tell the story within those, pieces. So
Right. It's not like the regular gathering around the dance and the cante that we usually see in flamenco, but actually with the theatrical component of it. Oh, that's amazing. I'm sad I missed it, but I'm glad you're saying that you're gonna redo it and improve it and everything. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I mean, I want to. I mean, I could keep talking to you about flamenco like for days, but let's just finish like with rapid fire questions. Your go-to accessory when you dance, like something that you just don't want to leave at home when you're going to perform.
abanico.
Oh, okay. Even if you didn't plan to use it?
Yeah, 'cause it works
Okay.
to dry you off, but also it's so easy to incorporate. Mhm.
Amazing. Your favorite palo flamenco?
Oh, probably bulería.
You are a bulería person. Yeah, it's like a party, but at the same time, it's like you can be tough. Yeah,
Show your personality there.
that's amazing. And your dream teacher?
Oh,
Anyone, even if it's no longer
I'm
with
gonna be
us.
too. If I had a girl, it would be Rocío Molina
Okay. Oh, of course.
and José Manuel Alvarez.
Okay. Well, I mean, I say dream, but in this world, you never know. You may
Never
meet
know,
her
huh? You never know.
this year, this 2024. Okay, and the favorite song that you listen to just by yourself, like something that maybe you don't usually share with somebody, but share it now with me.
Well, actually, because that inspired the reason why I use bass guitar in my show. It's
Oh,
Juanfe Perez. He's a flamenco bass player, and his song is Prohibido el Cante. And it's a bulería.
oh, I'm gonna write it down.
Sí, te lo pongo, te lo pongo. Eso, I love it. It's so good.
But it's something that you had in mind already, and then it got materialized, or how was it?
I heard the album, and I was like, this is so cool.
Oh, okay, like this is what I want.
The bass sounding like a flamenco guitar.
Mm.
And I was
That's
like,
unexpected, yeah.
yeah, when you listen to it, let me know what you think.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. And well, I don't know if you want to invite people to follow you or to your classes. Please go if you're in New York City. Tell them where they can find you.
So Xianix Barrera Flamenco, all the social media handles. My website is xianix.com. Whenever you want, just come, shoot me an email, a text, and let's dance together.
And to that we say, ole gogole! Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of The Dancing Cocktail. I hope you learn a little bit about flamenco and a lot about Xianix and get ready to share so much more about movement. Please don't forget to subscribe, give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend who you think would appreciate it, and I hope I see you next time with so much more of the Thinking Bar.
We are conditioned to conceal our vulnerabilities, hide our flaws, and bury our jagged edges. Yet kintsugi challenges that norm. It proposes that our cracks are beautiful.